Hey, me Matt here, and talking about SmackDown last week, the Halloween episode. I thought, what the fuck? Let's talk about Raw. I just finished watching it yesterday, actually, and that was a pretty good show. And I mean, talking about changing a lot of that format, and watching Jimmy Carteris ref and rant, and he was going on about talking at the beginning of the show, and yeah, usually you have two wrestlers coming out and they're doing a long promo in the ring, and then later on a match. Well, actually, they had Balor being interviewed, then Becky Lynch, and then it went into a match. Now the difference is they said a few things in Gorilla, and then they started the match. And I gotta say, it was very cool to watch it. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. And I think that for what it was, you know, you had Becky on the outside being thrown face first into the announce table. You had a lot of really good spots. Beck ended up winning. And it wasn't a title match, so I can't wait to see what else they have in the near future. And I'm sure they're going to have a match eventually down the road for the title. But yeah, they had Austin Theory defeating Rey Mysterio. Now, obviously, before the match, Rey and Dominic were in Gorilla, and Rey's talking about how well Dominic did last Monday against Theory. Then, of course, Austin comes out and talks about having a selfie with Rey. Now, a lot of people complained about that. Complained about the whole thing where Austin Theory's now on Raw, and he has this whole gimmick where he does a selfie. You know, he'll beat his opponent, do a selfie. He'll do a selfie anywhere. That's just a gimmick. I mean, he's done a lot worse on NXT. And for what it's worth, he's still a very good wrestler. And there was a point where he rolled into the ring between the ropes and did a drop kick on Rey. But yeah, Austin ended up winning. I guess what happened was you had fucking Dominic somehow hit Theory for some reason, and that cost the match. That was interesting to me because I just don't get it. I just don't understand what's going on. If there's a heel turn coming, I don't know. Because I feel like he doesn't need to be a heel right now. Or he shouldn't be a heel. If they're going to have father and son, which should also be very new in the future. But who knows? It'll be interesting to see what happens. I will mention with the Becky and Bianca match was that you had Becky go to the turnbuckle and take a pad off. And usually they do this with the referee's back turned. So the referee, I believe, saw the whole thing. But I don't think it was a no disqualification match, so I would have thought the referee would have called for the bell. So it kind of makes me wonder why Dominic slaps Austin Theory and the match is disqualification and Austin gets the win. That's kind of bullshit in my opinion. But whatever. Seth Rollins came out talking about how he won the contract for a championship match. Bicky comes out, they judge act for a little bit. Then Kevin Owens comes out. Now, Kevin Steen had mentioned his release. He said it doesn't matter if he's in WWE for 3 months or 3 years, which was a hint, I guess. And, kind of thinking about it, it's like, a lot of those wrestlers who were in WWE, Ruby Riott, Ruby Soho now, you have Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, a lot of others. They showed up on AEW and they're now wrestling there and they're having a blast. With Kevin Steen, I would think, if they don't give him the WWE title, then he might as well go over to AEW. What's the point with him sticking around if they're not going to do jack shit with him? And I mean, look, Universal Champion, United States Champion, Intercontinental Champion, I think Tag Team Champion, and for him not to have the WWE title is kind of like, he's been in the company for 7 years now, let's fucking get on it. And also, don't mention the fact that, NXT champion. So, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but if Kevin Steen doesn't stick around after the 3 months are up, then yeah, I highly suggest he goes over to AEW, because that's kind of what people are saying now. And the same goes for AJ Styles. Now, AJ wasn't on Raw this week. I'm not quite sure. I heard a few things, but my thought was there's a possibility he could show up in AEW sooner than later himself. He's over 40. I don't know if he really wants to finish his career in WWE. He already made his mark in WWE, like a lot of wrestlers aspire to go. Which, I said before, a lot of wrestlers aspire to go when they're in other companies, but this is now a company where you go to have your career die. Maybe that's a little harsh, I don't know, but yeah, AEW and AJ Styles, that would be interesting. But anyways, this sets up a match for Kevin and Bicky. They haven't really wrestled before, so, and this will be a non-title match. We had a backstage segment with Queen Zelina and Carmella, and they ran into Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross. Of course, there was some words back and forth. It was made mention that it was Rhea Ripley saying this is in high school, which kind of reminded me of that excitement, I mean. Then they want a match. And, look at Blood. Zelina Vega is now the queen. I don't think I've ever heard a Puerto Rican from the Bronx support a British accent. So that's interesting. But yeah, they had a match. Queen Zelina and Carmella won. And yeah, Zelina actually got the pin, the Sunset Bomb. But it was a really good match, actually. I mean, that was cool because you got to see these women at their best. And sometimes these matches are good, sometimes they're the shits. That's just the way it is. But this was a really good match. And you had the backstage area where you had like Liv Morgan and Dana Brooke, which we haven't seen in a while, and I can't remember who it was, but they were backstage watching the match. So this was pretty cool. This was a good match. And had Finn Balor versus Chad Gable, and they had a backstage segment as well. Whatever. Oh, it was Bicky and Shaq Gable. So, I don't know if they'll ever have a match. I don't think it's due time for Chad to have the WWE title, but he should get a title of some kind at some point. And, talk about Otis. And Otis Dosovich reminds me a lot of Big Van Vader. because of the physique and the fact that he moves like a luchador, kinda, sort of. He's got that power, I guess. Anyways, Finn Balor and Chad Gable have a match. This is pretty cool. And yeah, Finn Balor won. So, it's kind of like, we'll see what happens in the future with those two. And I mean, Finn Balor's a very good wrestler himself, obviously. And yeah, you have Rudolph, who defeated the Street Profits. And again, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode have been a tag team now for about 4 years. That was a pretty good, chemistry with those two. And I mean, this is where after the match almost comes out and demolishes the Street Profits. So you have Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. You now have theme music. So that's cool. No, they're really meshing well as a tag team. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm not a fan of Randy Orton, but actually, I'm not really a fan of Matt Riddle either. But this is kind of awesome to see those two have that kind of chemistry. But they help out after the match with Almas, and Almas, of course, destroys them, putting them through an announce table. You've got Damian Priest, who defeated T-Bar, aka Dominic Dijakovic, in a no disqualification match. And it's very cool to see both guys who wrestled in Ring of Honor and elsewhere have a match. And like last week, their match almost was good until T-Bar threw that computer chair, desk chair, whatever, at him, causing Damian Priest to freak out. So this match was cool. I mean, he had kendo sticks, and there was a point where Priest was tied up on the ropes, and you have T-Bar just wailing on him with the kendo sticks, and just the whole shit there. And then of course Priest had chokeslam Dominic on the apron through a table, and then of course the final reckoning. But just the expression on Damian Priest, I mean, getting punished like that and bouncing back and winning the match, this is the kind of shit that we need more of. And I know a lot of people don't really care for the new music. I love it. I think it's awesome. But that's just me. And then, of course, Apollo Crews comes out. Now he's challenging Damian Priest to a match in the future. Well, we'll see how that goes. Again, I'm not thrilled about Apollo Crews as a heel. I mean, he's a good heel. Just something about a fake accent that really throws me off, but whatever. It's worked in the past, I guess. Then we have the match, Bicky versus Kevin Owens. Now, you have Seth Rollins come out and join commentary, and there it is. And basically, this was a really good match. But, and it was Kevin who went for the pin on Biggie, but then Bicky turns him around, and yeah, it's a fast pin. So, of course, you have this moment where Kevin apologizes to Bicky about whatever it was, I don't know. And yeah, he challenges Seth Rollins to a match next week on Raw. He tries to apologize to Bicky for whatever the fuck, and Bicky does a big ending on Kevin Owens. And yeah, that's the match. And that's the show. I really enjoyed this show, actually. It's cool to see action like this. Now, here's another thing, too, that I didn't mention because Becky had a post interview, and she says, I'm done with Bianca, and now I want to move on. And so as she's talking, she stops, she looks over, and it's Liv Morgan. So I fucking want to see this. I really want to see Liv Morgan as the Raw Women's Champion. I think it would be pretty cool because it's due time. They really fucked the dog with the Riot Squad, unfortunately, and yeah, it's due time for Liv Morgan to finally have a women's championship. She never even had a women's championship in NXT, so I want this to happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but let's get this going. But this was a good show. I really did enjoy it. It didn't set anything up for Survivor Series, which is in a couple weeks. It's really fucking sad. But regardless, this is a really good show. And I mean, Raw is a hit or miss. I think this week they really pulled it off. It's just, yeah, they should have focused a little bit more on Survivor Series. But, it is what it is. We'll see what happens next week. Talk to you later. Bye.
So that them cutting WCW was a long time coming. But I think that there's this myth out there that Jamie Keller is
Gnarly.
that's why he took pleasure in cutting WCW. I don't think that's the case at all. Because if you look at some of his earlier interviews, like